Says it's 5:30, so we welcome you to our meeting this evening and ask you to please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thank you. We'll move to approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Item 1.4 is input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. No action may be taken upon a matter raised. Is there anyone who wishes to comment? Please, Mr. Hoffman. And you'll need to push the button till make sure it's green so we can hear you. A light.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll be brief tonight, I promise. And thank you to the members of the board. I've just been perusing from time to time the school district website and find the COVID update information useful and interesting. I think that's a good improvement that you've made there. I have a quick comment on it. You provide school district information in terms of exclusions and current cases and so on. And by school, you provide active cases, but you don't provide exclusions. It seems to me like exclusions by school would be an important management piece of information that you probably have, but that would also be of interest to members of the public. Just, I guess, a quick request if that could be added to that website. And for future information, I think it would be useful to understand, and I've read the policies about exclusions and so on, but I don't know how that is tracked, how people are notified that they can return, or how they request that, or how that's done with people. There are 200 students currently excluded. This is from January 7th, I think. 205 students and 30 staff members. So that's a fairly large number. And I just think from a, how you manage it standpoint, it would be interesting to know how people are notified and allowed to return. And thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. We'll sure take that into consideration. And I know the nurses definitely stay in contact with those who are being excluded. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment? All right, we'll move on to item 2.1, our superintendent's report. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope your holiday was enjoyable. I'll start by saying that just how great it was to have our students back after winter break. We have principals that are joining us this evening that are going to tell you about their first days back. So that'll be a treat. We had a few schools that came online after the break as well. West Wendover Middle and High Schools, and both of their principals will be joining us to speak about that. Spring Creek and Elko High Schools, and both principals will be joining us tonight as well. And we indicated during the planning phase that we would be reviewing data regarding attendance rates and physical space in classrooms and whatnot. So to determine the pathway that we can take for increasing the number of students and the days that they can be in school. And we're working on that. And we've been working with the state to find the pathway to increasing the numbers. Right now we're taking a look at Spring Creek High School and finding the pathway there. So now I think let's go ahead and start to hear from our principals. And we'll start with Mr. Craig Kylonen from West Wendover High School. Let's see, are you there? Mr. Kylonen? Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll move on to, I hope this is working, Mrs. Brenda Carter from West Wendover Middle School, and then maybe Mr. Kylonen can join us.
We have had a great few days coming back. You know, it's so good to see the kids. And I even had one of my teachers tell me that she had forgotten how much she really loves her job. And we haven't had any problems with social distancing. Sometimes they gravitate too close to each other because you can tell that they're happy to be together again and glad to be back in school. And our parents have been really supportive regardless of the phase that we've been in. The only real concern I have is I'm not real great with faces. I try to learn kids' names by the end of September. If I'm not real great with faces, I'm awful with half faces. I think the end of the year is going to come by and I'm not going to know my kids. But other than that, it's been a great start.
Great, great, thank you. That's great news. Mr. Kailonen, are you with us?
I know he was having some technology problems. He was trying to get on.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on and he can let us know when he's able to get on. So from Elko High School, we have Mr. Wickersham.
Good evening. Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Great. Okay. Yes, we finally brought kids back last week. It was fantastic to have to watch kids walking past the window and through the halls. Once again, it was a much better experience in a lot of ways than we didn't really know what to expect, but we had over 90% attendance on 2 out of the 3 days, dipped just a little bit lower than that on Wednesday. But the kids are happy to be back for the most part. We haven't had any problems with the kiddos following the restrictions, the guidelines. Ooh, sorry, cost-cutting measures there. We haven't had any problems with the masking as we expected. We've got some kids that are outside eating their lunch without their masks on, but rather than fight that battle, what we've been telling them is, okay, spread out, you know, and it'll be okay. And the kids have been very compliant, very respectful. And I've heard from multiple teachers that it's really heartening for everybody on our campus. Once again, to hear a bell and watch kids walk and hear a bell and see them scurry to their classes, it's been fabulous. So
That's great. Great. Thank you, Mr. Wickersham. We appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And from Spring Creek High School, we have Mr. Sean Taylor.
Hi there, can you hear me?
There you are. Yeah, got you.
Thanks. I'll just echo what most of my colleagues have said. I really do want to give kudos to our student body for following through with all the restrictions that we have in place, you know, at all of our schools. The kids have been so great with wearing their masks, complying with social distancing. Lunch is different. We have kids in our bleachers, and the kids have been really great and really no issues. I also want to give kudos to the parents. Thank you for continuing to call in, notify us why your student is out so we can track all that information. And I also want to give kudos to my staff. I know they are continuing to figure out this hybrid while managing distance kids and virtual students. And I think they've done a pretty bang up job with that and continue to do that. And they're so excited to have kids back on campus and kids in their rooms. And so it's been great.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We appreciate your time this evening. And from Adobe Middle School, we have Mr. Cody Kranka.
Hi there. Yeah, as you know, we started back on November 19th with a few bumps, especially with the COVID surge after Thanksgiving. But now that we're back in the new year, everything's going just as smooth as we can expect it to. We're working on more towards the education side now that we've hopefully got the facets and the logistics of the COVID situation taken care of here at our school, and we're just moving forward. The kids that are here tell me that they're happy to be here. Our teachers are happy to see the kids on a daily basis. So things are going well.
That's great. Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Kranka. Appreciate it. And from Southside Elementary, we have Mr. Mikko Lopategi.
Can you hear me all right?
We can, there you are.
Hello? Okay. All right. So in elementary schools, we've had students back in person since the beginning of November. And having students back in schools has gone honestly better than I had predicted. There have been a few challenges, but overall it's gone very smoothly. Parents have been extremely supportive. They've worked with us with drop-off and pickup procedures. We painted social distancing dots on the front lawn, and students line up on those dots when they arrive, and parents help us with that. Almost all students arrive with masks. If they forget a mask, the duty teachers will have one available. I really have to give our teachers and staff members kudos for their flexibility and the amazing job they've been doing by planning the daily routines and adhering to social distancing protocols. I'm so impressed by the collaboration between our staff members and also between staff and parents. I think it's gotten better since we've been doing this. Our nurse, Skylar Brasanias, has worked closely with staff and families to make sure everything that's happening is safe. And honestly, the most important thing is that it's been a huge boost to the social and emotional well-being of students to be back in school. Academically, we're now able to assess students and get an accurate idea of where they're at. So I think the positives have far outweighed the challenges of having students back. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And again, we appreciate your time as well this evening. Thank you. And I believe we have Mr. Kailonen available now. From
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
There you are. Yeah, we can.
Okay, well, I've just heard the last Mr. Lopategi speak, and as far as West Windsor High School, I think everything's been going actually very well with having kids here. We're excited to have kids back. Our teachers have worked extremely hard, so we had to just make sure that they were supported and feeling confident about things, and I think they have. And our nurse has been working extremely hard, and I think our kids, the one thing the feedback they gave us, it felt like a testing environment almost all day long. So I don't know if they necessarily enjoyed that, but I think overall the kids are having a good experience. They're glad to be back. We get a lot of feedback, and again, it's just good to see kids in the building. So we're excited to have them back, and everything's going well out at West Windsor High School.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kailonen. We appreciate your time. So it's been a great week and a half, almost a week and a half. It's, again, as everybody has said, it's so exciting to see kids back in school and back from the break. It was the energy is great and upbeat, and we're all happy to be back together. So we just keep going from here. We are all aware that Governor Sisolak has put the state in what he's called a state pause. And during this time, we're under a number of restrictions that impact schools and, more importantly, the activities that our kids can engage in. This pause was set to remain in place until this upcoming Friday, January 15th. Last night at a press conference, the governor indicated that he would be extending the pause for an additional 30 days. And during that time, all restrictions currently in place will remain so. He indicated, of course, that there may be modifications along the way, and then he would be communicating those as we progress. Our schools, in the meantime, then, because this is impacting our ability to provide for athletics. So the schools are now working towards developing or sort of bringing back the intramural programming that our schools have to provide students at the high school level with opportunities to participate in activities, and that the ones that are not restricted by current directives. So what it's entailed will be unique to each high school, and we'll be getting information out, but the activities will have to stay within the directives as they're laid out right now. But we'll be getting those activities going, and the high schools are working hard to get that up and running. We, as far as pay as you go, we are working with Jeff Zander now to begin the work of organizing the Pay as you go to Citizens Committee. Mr. Zander has compiled a list and worked with the committee members and stakeholders from the various communities. We're going to start scheduling meetings around spring. And then last, I'd like to say that we want to extend our deep appreciation to the Pennington Foundation. We were awarded a grant for $520,000 in order to purchase 147 heavy-duty air purifiers for classrooms. We're so excited about this generous grant and this new partnership with Pennington Foundation. It's a wonderful organization, and we're grateful to be partners with them. We're working now on a plan for distribution. We've ordered the air purifiers as well as the air purifiers that we received. If you remember, I told you the county, the commissioners, the county commission had generously shared some of their kind of funding with us, and we were able to get a number of things, but one of those things was air purifiers. So we feel like we're going to have a large number to be able to put into the classrooms and be able to support keeping kids in class safe and healthy. So our gratitude to the Pennington Foundation and to the committee, the commission, the county commission for those generous donations. And that's what I have for you.
How many classrooms are there in the district?
I think we figured, wasn't there 500 we needed
Is there?
to be able to cover the entire county? I think it was something like that.
Yeah, it's close to about 800.
800. Yeah. So that's why I say we're working on a distribution plan.
Mhm.
These air purifiers that come from the Penning Foundation are the kind that are installed, so they're not as mobile as the ones that we are purchasing through the county commission's care fund. So we will be making that plan for distribution.
And having the air purifiers in the classrooms, would that help litigate the social distancing? For example, in the high schools, could we bring it down, or is that a variant that we could ask? Or?
The only way we can have the social distancing reduced is through a variance. At this point, having an air purifier in the classroom is not a prerequisite for having that reduced. I mean, it's a number of different variables, and that's something that we can say is one of the things that we're doing, is we're seeking out these variances, and we're actively doing that, but they are not, it would not necessarily influence whether we could get that or not.
Other questions for our superintendent?
Yeah, I'm assuming, Dr. Robinson, that the NIAA though is given permission for some athletic teams to restart, because I've seen some things on social media that indicate that teams are getting out there and going to be competing at some point in February.
So the NIAA is following the restrictions and the directives, and one of the directives, Directive 34, outlined the sporting events that could participate or could not participate for the winter season. And we are entering the winter season at the end of this week. The two sports are basketball and wrestling, and those are not allowed. But what has been allowed is open gyms with modified practices and conditioning, and those were used as sort of tryout activities for students leading up to the start, what we hoped would be the start of the season. With the governor's announcement of extending the pause, we're assuming that means, and we're under the same restrictions, we're assuming that means that we will not be able to start the winter season going forward. We haven't heard directly that athletics or the season is going to be postponed, but it would not fit within the restrictions. The only two sports that we would participate in, basketball and wrestling, are under the directives that can't be played. But those activities of preparation for it, the modified practices, those are in play right now.
Yeah, the one that I had seen information for is volleyball starting on February 20th and then conducting their season till April.
Right, so that would be the fall season, and it's the same thing. There's going to be the ability to be able to do modified practices. We have not been told either way whether or not that's going to be excluded or allowed, but we can be working in preparation for it. And we want to be prepared, hoping that these pauses will be lifted and we will be able to participate in these sports activities.
Did we get clarification with his last press release about the rolling out of tier 2 for the teachers of the vaccination?
We didn't really get clarification. We have been working with the hospital here and the county to provide opportunities for staff that want to, it's purely voluntary, to set up the opportunity for them to be vaccinated and make it as easy and accessible as possible for them. So we've got that in the works right now, but we are dependent on the county and the hospital's ability to be able to get the vaccine. So we're working out a plan, but it's still.
And do we have a projection of how many teachers or how many faculty staff want it or not, or is it?
Yeah, we've been collecting that information. I couldn't give you the number right now, but we
Okay.
have been collecting that information. Yeah. So we'll be ready. Yeah.
Do you have an idea of when those vaccines will be available to those who want them?
We don't get a straight answer yet because they don't know. And in fairness to the county and to the hospital, they don't know when exactly they'll be in, but I know we've got a meeting coming up and we hope that it's very soon. And Bobby Shanks, our head nurse is working with the county so that we can make that schedule. We hope it's very soon.
Have we heard anything about the number of vaccine doses that we have or what the county has had to this point?
I don't have that information. I don't know if Ms. Shanks has that information yet. I think that's part of what the question is and why we're still holding these meetings is because we're not sure exactly how many vaccines will be available at the point that we're hoping to be able to provide the opportunity for staff.
Okay. I know that we saw the email that went out. I think it came from Mr. Walls requesting if you're interested in getting the vaccine that came out. So we must have some numbers there with that as an idea.
Right. We're collecting that information so that when the vaccines are here and available and we have that opportunity, we can get the information to the people that have indicated that they would like to participate and we can move quickly. So
Okay.
we're set up to move quickly once we have the final word.
And is there any indication that once the vaccines are available and people have the choice to take the vaccine, that then we can start getting kids back in school full time?
We've not heard anything about that yet. That hasn't come up. We've, sort of asked about, do we have a time frame when maybe the face coverings may not be necessary or when we can increase the kids coming in, but there's no information about.
I just want to say thank you to the district for, working on putting together, and the schools for putting together intramurals and things like that, because our student athletes and really our student bodies are really, suffering a lot with some of the things that are going on. They're back, they're doing the best they can, but I'm glad to hear that, we're putting together activities to provide them more opportunities to be involved and to be active and hopefully overcome some of the challenges that COVID has placed upon the shoulders of our students. So any other questions for our superintendent?
I had a question regarding the construction update, if Mr. Kelly's on.
I believe Mr. Kelly is available.
I am here.
So I just had a question because I was looking at the update and I see that we have a roof repair for Mountain View Elementary. And was that on the original schedule? Because I thought we were just going to complete the projects that we had already started at this point.
I have been told to cancel that one, but it is a repair on the Mountain View that's been on the capital improvement plan for the last couple of years.
Okay, but so can you explain to me why that is on the construction project now? Because it was my understanding that we were going to complete the projects we had going right now because we don't know for sure if we're going to have any more pay-as-you-go money.
I was not told to take this off the project list. I can cancel the project if you like. This roof's in pretty rough shape though. It's leaking every year. We've been lucky so far.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. Do we have the money to do this project?
Yes, we do.
Does that get all your questions answered, Mrs. Wines?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Casey, for that update. All right, any other questions from the board? All right, we'll move on to item 3.1, reorganization of the Board of Trustees. And as we have several new members on the board, I think it would be appropriate to take just a minute or so and just talk about each position. Obviously, the president is the one who runs the meetings. The clerk, actually, Mr. Cooney's the clerk right now, so would you like to talk about the duties of the clerk?
Make sure that the sign off. Accounts payable. You receive correspondence, contract and other. I forward. And any of the tasks, sign. Take care of. Of course.
All right. Thank you. And the next one is the representative to the Debt Management Commission, which I believe was Mr. Fish. And so we don't have a current representative. And basically that person is going to represent the school district on the Debt Management Commission for the county, and is going to be a pretty big deal this year, I would say. The next is representative to NASB, which is the Nevada Association of School Boards. Mr. Wines, would you like to talk about that one for a minute? Each part of that?
That's the Nevada Association of School Boards is, we meet 4 times a year, and there's several committees that everybody's involved in, and we spent some time at the legislature pushing education, and then they have a big convention at the end of the year. They didn't have it this year, but it and all the board members are involved in putting that on. It kind of gets you one step closer to the state level, what goes on in education at the state level, and some good, some bad.
All right, thank you. The next is the Superintendent's Advisory Committee. Mrs. Wines, I believe you're on that right now. Would you like to just give us a brief update or preview of what that is?
Yeah, basically it's just a committee that meets with the superintendent. To this point, I've only attended one, and that was with Mr. Pearson when he was the superintendent, but it's kind of at the discretion of the superintendent to call the committee to discuss things that would be a larger impact, I would say, to the way that the school district operates.
Thank you. And the STARS Committee?
That would be me again.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the STARS Committee is basically you head up the committee members, which are chosen from various facets of the community. So it's community leaders, educators, et cetera. And that committee, we used to meet, at the beginning of the month to choose the STARS recipients for the following month. But now, of course, we're just doing it all online. But that's what the committee is to choose the classified and certified STARS recipient each month to get recognized for their exemplary performances.
And would you like to let everyone know what STARS stands for? Sorry, it's a recognition program, but we always just call it STARS.
I always just call it STARS. I have it here. Maybe I have it. No, I don't have it. Do you know what it stands for?
Yeah, it's staff and teachers achieving results with students, I believe is what the acronym stands for. But it is our staff recognition program. All right, and then the Crisis Development Committee member? And I believe,
It's a new position, isn't it?
that one, no, we had it last year, but I think it was also Mr. Fish. So, would someone like to give us a briefing on that one?
It was Mr. Cooney signed up.
Oh, was-
It was a passing.
Oh, Mr. Cooney, it's you.
It was.
Yeah, remember you signed the EOPs for us?
Oh, I remember signing. I thought that might have been part of my clerk's job. So anyway,
So,
yeah.
I mean, I can give it up. That's
Please.
basically,
Yeah.
working with, the school safety. The school safety committee works with me in ensuring, well, the schools are safe in essence, both physical security and updates and improvements to the school sites. Also working on the emergency operations plan, which we work in conjunction with Poolback to ensure that, that's things such as fire drills, earthquake drills, bomb threat drills, all that stuff is in place. And we have an operations plan in place to deal with any eventual emergency.
All right. Thank you. I just think it's important we kind of talk about what some of those basic responsibilities are. And I think it's great that we reorganize the board every year, give everyone a chance to shuffle around and do different things. I'm really a proponent of every organization should be training everyone to be in charge at some point if they need to. And so I think it's great that the board does a lot of training through NASB and that we have the opportunity to reorganize. So we'll go ahead, unless anyone has any questions about the positions. All right, we'll go ahead and start with any nominations for the president.
I'd like to nominate trustee Cooney.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a nomination of the second. Any other nominations? All right. All in favor of Mr. Cooney as our new president, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and Mr. Cooney, congratulations.
I abstain.
Thank you.
Oh, and we have one abstain.
Abstaining from
I'm
that
sorry.
vote, yeah.
Okay, one abstention. All right, next is our selection of the clerk.
I'd nominate Teresa Dastard.
All right. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other nominations for the clerk? Any discussion? I didn't ask for discussion, Mr. Cooney. I'm sorry.
Thank
We didn't
you.
discuss you.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no discussion, all in favor of myself as the clerk, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay? Any abstentions? Okay. Chair votes aye, and I will now be the clerk. Awesome. Good luck, Mr. Cooney. All right, next is a representative to the Debt Management Commission. Any nominations?
I want to make a statement here.
Mhm.
I received a letter from the county that I had forwarded to them as a representative for the debt management. My name had been, I think, submitted from Central, and it went before the county commission, their last meeting that they had last week. I haven't seen anything from that,
Mhm.
but I don't know if someone wants to take that one on. It's definitely an eye opener, and it's going to be extremely important this year with the pay-as-you-go.
Mhm.
It might be appropriate for you to keep doing that then, even as president, if you thought your schedule could handle that, and I would nominate you to do that.
Yeah, and then everything is, if the board would like to do that, I think that'd be an appropriate move.
So we have a nomination. Is there a second? Okay. Any other nominations? I would like to nominate Mr. Wines for that one. So I think we need, I think Mr. Cooney's got a lot of connections with the county commissioners, and I appreciate that, but I think having another voice in there would also be appropriate. So I would nominate Mr. Wines.
I'd second that.
All right. All right, any discussion?
So are you keeping your name in there, Jim?
I would just as soon pull it, but
Okay.
If you would like to.
yes.
Okay.
I'd ask to withdraw my name from nomination, please.
All right, does the one who seconded that approve and the nomination? Okay. Any other nominations for the Debt Management Commission? All right, all in favor of appointing Mr. Wines, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right, chair votes aye, and Mr. Wines, congratulations. And good luck.
Pull your hat now.
All right, next is the NASB representative, and I believe we need a legislative liaison and a director and an alternate director. So let's start with the legislative liaison. Any nominations or volunteers?
I nominate Candace.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, we have a nomination with a second. Any other nominations? Any discussion? All right, this will be for our legislative liaison. So all in favor of appointing Candace as the NASB legislative liaison, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Candace, I didn't ask, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
I should
I'm
be
okay with
asking,
that.
but no one has told me no so far, so.
I'm okay.
All right, chair votes aye, and Candace, you will be our legislative liaison. All right, next we need a director.
I nominate Mr. Ira Wines for director. NASB.
So do we have a second? Thank you. We have a second? Any other nominations? All right, all in favor of Mr. Wines as our NASB director, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Chair votes aye, and Mr. Wines, congratulations on that one as well. All right, and now we need an alternate director.
I nominate Brian.
Second.
I have to decline. I've just got too much to do with
Okay.
Okay.
my other stuff going on with the legislature and TBC.
All right. I'll say I'll hop in as an alternate because I'm pretty sure that Candace and Ira will take care of things and I won't have to do anything. Just kidding.
I think you're sure.
So I would volunteer if nobody else wants to
I'll
jump
second
in.
your volunteer.
Okay, thanks. All right, are there any other nominations or volunteers for the alternate? All right, all in favor of myself as the alternate, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Chair votes aye, and congratulations to me. All right, next is our appointment to chair the STARS Committee.
I move to appoint Mr. Robert Leonard to the STARS Committee.
Second.
All right, we have a nomination with a second. Any other nominations? All right, all in favor of appointing Mr. Leonard, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Chair votes aye, and congratulations, Mr. Leonard, on that one. That one's a lot of fun. All right,
Madam
and-
Chair,
Yes, please.
we need to kind of go back to the Superintendent's Advisory Committee.
Oh, sorry, I'm scrolling down through my, yes, we will go to the superintendent. Thank you for, hold on. All right, thank you. Any nominations for the Superintendent's Advisory Committee?
Can I just ask a question? Since we're in committees now as a board, is there really a need for that one? Because I know we address second order change in those committees, so I don't know if this committee is really necessary anymore.
They really have two different functions. I think that's a great question.
Okay.
And as I think about it very quickly, I think they have two different functions. So my recommendation would be that you'd continue with that committee.
If an issue came up that wasn't, it fell in those categories, it would be, yeah, I could see that.
I can volunteer for that one.
All right,
Second that.
okay, we have Luke, and we do need 2 plus an alternate.
I'd be happy to stay on the super.
Okay.
And I'd like to be on that.
Okay, so we have 3 volunteers here. Do we have a second for Mrs. Wines?
Second.
Okay, and Mr. Cooney?
Second.
All right. Excellent. So we have We have 2 plus an alternate. We okay to put Luke and Candace as the committee members and Mr. Cooney is the alternate?
Yep.
Is everybody okay with that? All right. All in favor of those appointments, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Chair votes aye, and those are approved. Thank you, Candace, for getting us back there. And finally is a Crisis Development Committee member.
I can volunteer for that one too.
No. Nominate Luke.
All right, we have a nomination.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any other nominations? All right, all in favor of Mr. Gerber serving on that committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right, chair votes aye, and Mr. Gerber, congratulations on that one. We are rolling along. Well done, everyone. All right, we'll move to item 3.2, receipt, review, and possible approval of a letter petitioning the governor to better support the academic, physical, social, and emotional needs of our students. This is for possible action. The letter is attached and can be edited, changed, updated, anything we'd like to do. So thoughts, questions, anything from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to just say I thought the letter was very good. My only question is did we want to add anything about the distancing on the buses? Because I know that was an issue with sports, trying to get our sports teams transported if we can ever go back to playing sports.
Right, right. Now, I think that's an excellent addition.
I
agree. I think that's an important addition.
Yep. I would like to see something in there talking about the maximum capacity. I think it impacts our hot lunch program and some of that as well. And one thing as I read through this that I thought we may need to address, because I think it's going to be an extremely important thing as we go forward this year, that's going to be the financing of the schools and how the governor's budget may be impacting that. I don't know if this would be the appropriate letter for that, but I want to put that out before the board to see if you think that we ought to add that when we send this letter to the governor.
That's a
Thoughts from the board?
good idea, but maybe a separate letter. Huh?
Yeah, and I think
Get into the legislative session and a little closer and send
Mhm.
send a separate letter. I think that's a good idea.
Mhm.
I think one other thing too we could add to this letter is just in lieu of what we're getting with the air purifiers and whatnot, we could maybe ask for guidance that if we could hit these things, could we do this in this case with the rooms? Because we have, obviously we're not going to change our buildings, but if we can change the airflow or something like that, can that be a variable? So that
Mhm.
we could bring it down to each school as a, not just a blanket whole district,
Mhm.
maybe?
I think you'd want to consider as well, those was asked, we have 800 classrooms in the district and we don't have enough purifiers to, that would be able to make a big enough difference in the district that would necessarily have the impact that you're looking for. I mean, I think maybe speaking about, and just I'm thinking off the top of my head, maybe speaking about the PPE efforts and the, you know, what we have put in place for mitigation and how well we're following it. You know, maybe in general might be something that would be.
I think it is really well written, and I like the social aspect with the social distancing and then the sports, because we do have to give something back to the children at some point. We have to a little bit of positive reinforcement here, and kids thrive for this. So it's almost really pleading the governor to let us case per school, depending on, like I said, some of our buildings are much older than some of the newer schools, that we can be a little more flexible.
Right. I believe that's what you're asking
Mhm.
for in there. And so maybe we would be able to put some data in there in regards to the PPE or even
As a
how
little
our
annex.
schools are doing, but some sort of data that would support the request that you're making.
I think the timeliness of this is pretty important, you know, in order to get these additions in there. I'm not sure. I think that we should be able to get the modifications and the amendments to this taken care of by our next board meeting. Will that still be soon enough? That's going to be in 2 weeks, and the governor just extended things for a month. So
Still fits in.
Is it possible to approve something off meeting? Or do we need to ask for a special session?
Say, we could ask for a special session, but I would also say the timeliness is important, but I would say it's important that this happen, you know, sooner than our next board meeting.
That's my point, yeah.
If we want to make recommendations to add the data and whatever else, we can also recommend that as soon as that is added, that we go ahead and send it to the governor. That's what I would recommend, is that this happens this week instead of in 2 weeks.
Exactly, yeah.
Send it out an email and we can
Mhm.
put our stamp of approval on it.
Yeah, because we wouldn't really need to discuss or deliberate, just if we approve the letter and approve adding, right now I have adding some, a request to change the social distancing on the buses.
the transportation.
Yep, talk about the maximum capacity and adding data to support those requests. And maybe some of those other items we can add in a different letter as we address.
I like the Ira's idea of addressing what Mr. Cooney brought up in a separate letter.
Mm-hmm.
Have that a completely separate letter, but probably ready to go at the next meeting because the legislative session is going to start soon.
1st of February, is that when it starts?
I think so.
Yeah, the first week.
So how would the board like to proceed on this particular? Yes, Mr. Zeisler.
Go ahead. I'll wait till there's a motion on the
Nope.
floor. I have a bunch of things that I'd
Okay.
like to address.
That's fine. How would the board like to proceed?
I move to approve the letter with the changes regarding distancing on buses. What was the other one?
Also, just adding some data to support the
Oh, and
requests,
adding data to support
I think.
the letter.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Teresa, who wrote the letter? Do you know?
Well, it was a combined effort. I will say that Mr. Gerber started it and I helped him put things together. So that was where it came
Because I
from.
worry about a document like that that's signed Board of Trustees before we've voted on it at a meeting, indicating to the public that all of us agree with this statement. And
I understand.
we
Okay.
don't.
Okay, yeah,
So
and
I'm
that's
gonna-
why we're discussing.
Good, excellent. So let me just read this because I put this quick together today. So some of the
Yep.
things that came to light, I'll try to edit this as I go. So my assumption would be that any salutation that indicates there's a consensus among trustees would need to be seen by all trustees, and one would hope that all trustees would then have input on such a document. And today was the first day I've seen this. This should hopefully be a process that would be conducted during our weekly committee meetings. I think that would be a better venue for that, where we could all provide input so that our viewpoints are accounted for, and then put it forth as a public document. It's a list of demands, again, that's bereft of any reference to the well-being of teachers, coaches, administrators, and staff, much like Luke and I had talked about before he came on to the board. Happy employees make for successful students. We're at a critical juncture today, as we've talked about and heard. The past 2 months were a time frame during which positive cases and deaths in Elko County exponentially increased, while our community leaders, save for a few, we're doing the hope scenarios again. A sincere thank you to those community leaders, and I'm kind of merging my member report too. A sincere thank you to those community leaders that urge social distancing and the wearing of masks. We have a chance to weather the storm in a responsible manner rather than exacerbating the past 2 month rise in cases. We are finally starting to see a decline, and now we want to just throw everybody back into the classroom again. The sentiment of the letter anyway is how I read it. I understand that there are most likely enough votes to have this sent to the governor. I would hope that it would only have the names of those who voted in favor of this, not the collective trustees, unless we do some editing. I do not support a document that only addresses the well-being of our students and not the altruistic employees of Elko County School District. And this is not an endorsement of Governor Sisolak's policies on the impact of this virus on our state. I'm indeed incensed at the sentiment that our governor and our state superintendent expressed that educators in our institutions of learning are merely a daycare or childcare service. Our education professionals have spent many years devoted to earning their degrees and licenses in order to serve the children of Nevada. We need to send a message to the governor that also outlines the crucial role of parent empowerment and engagement. Students' low grades and emotional well-being have been exacerbated by the neglect of some in our community to hold their children accountable for their grades. We have created an environment of victim mentalities amongst our students. Successful students have a partnership with their family and their teachers and schools. So how do we get families engaged in the explicit curriculum in order for students to be both successful online as well as in person? Let's help create resilient students who are capable of weathering any storm, either current or in the future. And so those are the aspects I think we need to address as well to not only the governor, but the state superintendent, because she's all about putting these demands on teachers once again for accountability and students for accountability. And that's just ridiculous in this current climate that we're in.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments, and I agree that, you know, this was put out as a draft letter for the board to look through and edit, and it's obviously still available to do so. Any other thoughts or comments from the board?
I'd like to just rebuttal. My thoughts initially with this letter, as I can show you in the initial email, was not signed. Okay, this was a draft. This was open to discussion.
Right, not signed, but there was a salutation that included all
Not on my
trustees.
copy, sir.
Right.
Okay. I approached the superintendent to ask how I could move forward to try to bring this as a discussion. I was told how to move forward. I did. That being said, I do not believe anywhere in this letter we're trying to put anybody in harm's way. If anything, we're just trying, within reason, to not break the law, if you will. I'm not understanding why professional football players can play or basketball players can play, yet some kids can't. That is just a discrepancy. As the exponential active cases, I've been noting a decline for quite some time now, actually, sadly enough. I'm not seeing why you're just focusing on the increase. There's been a decline for a long time now in local cases. We've gone from over 600 to 237, I think it was, iToro posted yesterday. So I'm not understanding why you're not at least open to a discussion. We never said this was a done deal in any aspect or any point. It was a discussion point. So I'm not understanding the aggression here again.
I'm open to discussion. That's fine, Luke.
Well, your statement
this is
doesn't look like a
venue to
discussion.
do that. It's just the public perception. I'm sure there are teachers. I know my wife was not too happy when it became a public document in the wee hours before the school board. So if you're sensing aggression, that'd be the aggression. When we have people that are asking for accountability and to have these things on the board docs in a timely fashion. That's all. With the professional teams, I think you're sensationalizing a situation where professional teams are seeing cases, but at the same time, they have a standard of care that's way up here, and here's our standard of care for students and teachers.
Okay.
I'd like to make another comment. To me, what the letter is saying, Mr. Zeisler, is we're trying to just relax these restrictions some so we can get our high school kids back into at least a 2-day-a-week hybrid model. I mean, to me, that's the intent here.
We're not talking
letter.
full 100%.
Right. And the only way for us to get that accomplished right now is if the governor does relax those parameters, because they are different for high schools versus the elementary schools.
Right.
And I think, to me, that's what the letter is asking. Can we just have the same parameters for the high schools as we have for the elementary? And then we wouldn't have these issues with being able to go back in a hybrid model in the high schools.
But I don't,
And obviously the sports it's a big issue.
I don't think the governor, though, is being capricious about those guidelines. Those are based on science and the people that are advising him. So I don't think he's just willy-nilly saying, oh, gosh, we're gonna do this distance to disadvantage Elko County. I'd
No, but
rather
I
go
think
with
we're
the
asking
science
him
that's
for an
involved there.
exception. We're asking for an exception for Elko County because of the fact that we don't have the capacity in our schools to be able to stay within those parameters.
Right, and for a good reason, right?
Well, it depends. Some class,
Rate for young adults is going to be much higher than it is for elementary students.
but in some classes, for example, it might be as little as 2 or 3 students, so that can't be in that classroom. So that's why we have a third cohort. I'm not saying every classroom, we'd have to talk to Mr. McEnany for that, but I'm just maybe in some instances, we could have a few more students per. I'm not trying to overload the teachers, if anything, but
Sure, and
just to
let's-
try to bring it down to 2 and
Sure.
2.
And so let's have the letter say that. I think that's reasonable to say it that way.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
It's a per case, if you will, and it's 2 of the major high schools in the county that have that issue right now. The other high schools don't have that issue. So it was brought up to me as well that it's not, the governor isn't saying 1 day for high schools. It just depends because of our classes are so small. Physically, we can't cram them.
No, I'm fully aware of that. It's just the letter is sensational. That's all.
Okay, well, what would you like it to
I already
say?
indicated what I thought needed to go in there.
Okay.
But I mean, we know I'm the out man, so.
Well, who's
you
playing the
can-
victim now?
You don't have to discuss things with me, Luke. You can just vote on them.
Well, I think discussion is always important, and I appreciate everyone's point of view on making this happen. One way or another, as far as, Mr. Zeisler, your thought of, can we just have the people who agree sign it? Yes. That's, we have all kinds of things that say, the ayes and the nays, and if that is how you'd prefer, if that's how the board would like to move forward, is by making these changes in this letter. If the board would like to look at, drafting a different letter and addressing more of those concerns, we can certainly do that as well. But we do have a motion on the floor with a second, and we can still discuss how we'd like to move forward.
I believe it'd be better and it'd bring more weight to the community and the letter if all 7 could sign. So if we could find a happy medium, I believe it'd be better for the community if we can show a united board. If it's changing a few things, let's change a few things. That's my only point. It's not a question of crushing people with votes. It's a question of working as a team and looking forward. I truly believe.
Yeah, that was going to be my question
And
is
and
like,
that's what I expressed in that letter, is that it should be a team effort. It should be in committee and then come here as a public document.
so what committee are you referring to?
Any of the number of committees that we have now, right? That we
But
can
those
pass it
committees
with that.
are informational only, correct? We can't discuss
Action items.
action
think.
items, right?
Right, that they're not for.
No,
deliberation,
but I would assume in those committees, like we have been doing, we do talk about, nuances of policy, just like we could talk about nuances of a letter that we'd send to the governor.
Well, my question to you would be like, if we changed number 1 here, instead of saying to change it in the secondary schools to 3 feet or less, and changed it to, can we change it somehow so that it would read more like, can we change the parameters when we have classrooms that only need a few more students in the classroom to be able to follow through with the 2-day-a-week hybrid model?
Yeah, I like that much better. And I think
Mr. McEnany, is that a possible?
better pill for the governor to swallow, whether he does or not. He's going to thumb his nose to us anyway, so,
Most likely.
yes.
No, that's reality.
Right,
But if we don't try,
right.
We don't get there.
But,
You know,
but
So I
would-
mean,
yeah.
and look, don't take this, it's not an adversarial thing.
Oh,
I just
it's
think-
not, no, but like I say, I truly believe that I would like this year the community needs to embrace the board, and we need to show that we're a team
Right.
looking out for the best interest.
Right.
And so, I think all our efforts need to be guided that way.
Right.
So then the second
And
question
as
would
long as we
be,
can do it in a safe manner for all of our faculty and staff in the school district, I think that's a great thing.
well, that's why I was bringing, for example, should we add in there if we have air purifiers? Can we do it? And second question would be, Mr. McEnany, is it even feasible? Is it true that in some instances, it's just a few students that we're missing to be able to drop down to 2 cohorts?
That's an extremely difficult question to answer because in some classes right now, again, based on the design of high schools, some classes at a high school only have 10 kids in a class. So under that understanding, there are instances where you could have 100% of the kids in class. But you can't look at it like that in a one-off. You have to look at it in the total context of the school site. In particular, the courses that we've been looking at with the administrators are focusing mostly on the most highly attended and packed classes, right? Your English 1s, 2s, and 3s, because in English 4, you start to lose kids to AP and to dual credit classes, right? So you got to look at English 1, 2, and 3. You got to look at physical science and biology, which are the 2 most highly attended science classes on a high school campus. Algebra, Algebra 2, and geometry. Those are the classes where you run into problems. Very rarely will you run into a problem with creative writing, right? Again, so, sometimes if you guys go and visit campuses and you do that, you're going to see classes with only 1 or 2 kids in them because those 2 kids is 1/3 of that class. However, that student's very next class in their scheduler, they might have 31 or 32 kids in it. So as a result, we can't look at it by a simple walkthrough because that gives a false understanding of how many kids are actually attending that school. We're looking right now in several cases of how many sections of classes throughout the course of a day would violate, or not violate, violate's the wrong word, would not allow for 50% of the kids to attend. And depending on the school site, that's anywhere between 35 to 70 sections in the course of a day. I mean, that may be, impossible to overcome, but that's exactly what we're working on, trying to figure that out. So many of the things that you're discussing in this letter with Dr. Robinson, we've been having these discussions daily about how we can do that. And again, I don't want to speak for Dr. Robinson, but my understanding is that the variance process already accounts for most of the things in this letter. So there's a process in place already to try to do these things.
That's correct. And that's the work, as I mentioned in the beginning of my report, that we're working on right now and working with the state to find that pathway to be able to, increase the number of students. So I'll make just a suggestion, and I understand that time is one of the things that is of importance to the board, and this would take a little bit more time, but if the board would like to discuss and approve the points that you would like in the letter, then we can work on drafting a letter based on those points that you're making, and we can present it to you it would be the next board meeting. And as I said, that would then be a challenge to the time frame that you were hoping to achieve, but it's something that might be able to meet the discussion that you're having, as if we took those points and put the letter together for you.
One of the things, when I ask about the timeliness of this, I think that when we have a situation or scenario like we have with a letter, and we're having all of the board members, or we'd like to have all the board members sign it, and it's a new idea, rather than it being surprise as a surprise on the agenda or that sort of thing. Maybe we can set up a protocol that calls for a workshop first. So we workshop the idea, then we get a draft, and then follow through for the final product, rather than trying to do all of it in one step. I'd like to see us do that. And going along with what Dr. Robinson was just mentioning, yes, if we go through and we identify the specific things, as several of the board members have brought forward, I think that we can then direct staff to fine tune that and bring it back to us for an approval.
And in a workshop situation, we could make that a public meeting, correct?
Yes, and the workshop portion, I believe that we can. It's just a matter of calling a special meeting and then working through so we aren't in violation of the open meeting law. So, and that,
A workshop, we can't vote on anything, or what, there's one other. Discuss things we
can't deliberate.
can't deliberate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't deliberate or make a decision. So, but putting the things together, if we would like this evening, if we want to feel comfortable, we look at the suggestions and then look at what the draft looks like and get that out before the board meeting, so everybody's had an opportunity to see that, when the agenda is posted or, however the mechanics of that fall into place.
Yeah, we've
Would we
done
wanna-
group editing before on documents, so, we could also incorporate that.
Would we want to do that at the next meeting or have a special meeting next week?
What are the thoughts of the board?
With the importance of this,
I think we need to move faster.
I would like to see what the possibilities are and where we could get together and go through and have that
Make-
discussion right there to fine tune our.
Make an
language.
outline
Mhm.
of this
Yes,
and add a couple of couple of points Brian had.
yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay, if that's what the board, how the board would like to proceed, then I would withdraw my motion.
Luke, are you in approval of the withdrawal?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let's make a motion on how we would like to proceed.
Brian?
So we would have just an afternoon workshop then, I would assume?
We could do that to workshop this particular letter.
During one of our committee times, like 2 to 3 in the afternoon?
Sure.
Possibly, or we can just do it when we do at 5:30, when we do our regular board meeting time. It would just be a different day. What works
Sure.
best for everybody?
I'm just going, 2 to 3 would work better for me
Okay.
than 5:30, but if everybody's on board for 5:30, I can probably make it work, but if everybody could do 2 to 3, that would be easier for me.
All right, we're just gonna do a quick poll. So 2 to 3, Candace?
It depends on the day. I'm actually going to be gone next week,
Okay.
later in the week, but.
But earlier in the week, like Tuesday,
like
Monday?
Tuesday would probably work. Monday or Tuesday would.
Okay, at 2 to 3. Okay, Jim?
I'm good either way.
Okay, and I'm flexible.
Yeah, 2 to 3.
2 to 3 is okay.
Early in the week? Is that the
Yeah.
consensus?
Well,
so
the-
far?
Monday, I believe.
The earliest we can have a
Monday's a
meeting.
holiday.
Monday's a holiday.
Okay, oh, Monday's a holiday, so
Days to.
Yeah.
Right.
In order-
Posting the.
in order to
agenda.
post the agenda, we will have to, in a timely manner, we will have to meet on Tuesday. Unless we can have an agenda, let's see, nope, Tuesday is the earliest we could meet and have an agenda publicly posted.
What's that date?
Tuesday is the 19th.
19th. Okay.
Robert?
I'll make it happen.
Okay. And 2 to 3 works for you, Brian,
Yes,
on Tuesday?
yes.
Okay. All right, so do we need a motion to set up a special workshop at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th? to address our concerns or to address this letter for the governor?
My second.
Okay, that works. We'll call that good. All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, chair votes aye, and we will work on this as a board, which is a great place to start. Yes, please. All right, you are welcome to make comment. If it's green.
There we go. I know you've already taken action, so I won't waste any time on that. I'll say that I was happy to see that this board was going to take this topic up, and thank you for doing that. I think timeliness is important, and so I appreciate the fact that you're going to meet as soon as you can. I will just make one comment, and that's really, and it's part of what some of your staff has been saying, that management at the lowest level here is the best. And I don't think that that letter as drafted committed you to putting students next to each other or any distance apart. What you were asking for was to not have quite such a restrictive top-down implementation. And if you had those relaxed, then you would have more opportunity at the local level to manage your own situation the way it should be. I don't believe that that letter was in any form a commitment that you would move students to within 3 feet of each other. And I think asking for, pushing for, and even at some point insisting on being able to manage closer to home is the right step. And again, I think timeliness is important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, there was one more thing that I thought of when I read that letter. And it's been mentioned here a couple times tonight, and it's the question of variances. And so I was just curious, as you're pushing this forward, where you are at with requesting the variances, because as was stated, there is a process in place to do that. And I'm just wondering to what degree that has been pursued. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. And I know variances, we have requested lots of variances.
Some have been approved, some haven't.
Yep.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Any other discussion on that item? Okay, we'll see everybody on Tuesday, either in person or virtually, which is how we do things from here on out anyway. All right, item 3.3 is receipt, review, and possible approval of the update to policy GBC 23, emergency family and medical leave for possible action.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and GBC 23 is approved. Item 3.4 is receipt, review, and possible approval of Elko County Classroom Teachers Association ratified agreement for the 2021 school year. Dr. Robinson, you had some things to say on this one to get us going.
Yes, we're requesting that this item be tabled. We have to go through certain processes as outlined by statute, and we were made aware of them. So we need to slow this down a little bit, and we'll have it prepared for the next board meeting.
All right, do we have a motion to postpone this until the next board meeting?
I move to postpone this matter to our next board meeting
All right.
Second.
on the, Not-
Yeah,
not
to
next.
our next
Tuesday,
official board meeting on the
Yes.
26th.
On the 26th.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of postponing this until our next board meeting on January 26th, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and we will readdress this on the 26th when we've gotten everything, all the little nitty gritty things taken care of. All right. Item 3.5 is receipt, review, and possible approval of request from Elko County School District Site Administrators Association for formal recognition as the bargaining organization for all site administrators. Discussion from the board. All right,
Second.
thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is not for this particular year, but for the next year, 21, 22, that they would become the bargaining. And they've met all of the requirements that are necessary under 288.
Yep. This is where, this is the first step
Okay,
in meeting those requirements.
okay.
I just wanted to ask what why this has come about, because this has never been, I mean, this is just starting a new union, basically, correct?
Yes, they've been under a meet and confer structure for as long as I've been here. And for whatever reasons, the administrators have decided that they want to formalize into a bargaining unit like the teachers and some of our unlicensed employees.
All right, any other questions or discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that is approved.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, sorry, and thank you, Mrs. Wentz, and Mrs. Wentz will be abstaining. Item 3.6 is receipt, review, and acknowledgement of receipt of current information from Elko County Support Staff Organization, ECSSO, to retain recognition as the collective bargaining representative under the terms of NRS 288 for the 2020-2021 school year. Discussion from the board?
Move to recognize EXO.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? I apologize, I don't always ask for that. Okay, chair votes aye, and that is approved. Item 3.7 is receipt, review, and possible approval of the 2020-2021 incentive grants.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
It always surprises me that there's not more people, more schools apply for this deal.
Yeah, same. All right, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Chair votes aye, and those are approved. Item 4.1 is our consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just want to say thank you to the members who are retiring at the end of the year, especially Sandy Brownstetter. She was one of the individuals I worked with on the science committee, and she has done a phenomenal job of promoting science and really getting kids excited about science. I mean, she's an a kid herself when she's at the International Science Fair. So glad she's going to get to enjoy some well-deserved time to take care of her family.
Well, I have never seen her at the International Science Fair, but my children have had her as a teacher, and she is phenomenal, and she will be greatly missed. All right. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstaining? Any opposed? Say nay. Chair votes aye, and the consent agenda is approved. Item 5.1 is a report from our NASB director.
Oh, it's been pretty quiet. There was the virtual training last week. You were involved in it, Jim?
Yes.
Everybody got those emails, and it looked to me like they did. That's why I didn't forward it. And we have a meeting February 4th that will not be in person. So hoping the one in June is, because I volunteered to host it. You guys are welcome to come.
We have lots of space in Elko County for hosting meetings socially distanced.
That's what I told them. Yeah, we're gonna have it out at the 71 Ranch. So we got room to spread people out. That's it.
Okay, thank you for that update. Item 5.2 is items from board members.
Just a reminder to everyone to, if you haven't done your financial statements, they're due by the end of the week.
Got mine.
I had a question with regards to the ethics. I've had to submit the ethics paperwork for, well, with the Teachers and Leaders Council. And I think I've got to go back and double check on Aurora, I think is the site at the Secretary of State's. Aurora has the information. So there'd be a couple of things, your overall financial disclosure and the ethics thing, I think, have to be done with that.
And the contributions and expenses
Yeah.
for
For the
candidates.
individuals who are newly elected or retain their position.
correct.
I had a couple of things in addition to that. First of all, on Saturday, NASB had provided a in-service training. Ms. Gray and myself were participants in that. It was a great presentation. You'll probably hear more about some of the things that were discussed in there as we move forward as a board, looking at some protocols and things like that. Looking towards doing a retreat, goal setting, et cetera, those types of things, which I think even though this world's turned upside down per se, I think there's some real opportunities for the board to become very cohesive and really set some direction for our district. So that's in my estimation, a real optimistic opportunity. In addition to that, last Monday, I went out and I visited Spring Creek High School the first day that students were back there. I also went and I visited Grammar Number 2 on Tuesday and Elko High School on Wednesday. And it was great to see the kids back in the school. Teachers were excited. You know, the items that our principals mentioned were definitely in full view as we went through, and it was great to see them. Kids were super quiet, but you know, that comes with the territory. I think it was their first few days or first days back in school since 9 months ago. So definitely moving forward and exciting. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick update for the ethics. It's at ethics.nv.gov. It's not on Aurora.
Okay.
You need to do the ethics. It's at the Nevada Commission of on Ethics. All right, any other items from board members?
I was just wondering, because it's been such a odd year, what are we planning, or could we plan, or maybe have a new committee, or maybe asked the city committee, the county committee, to entice these children and the teachers? Could we maybe, instead of, because they're missing out on their dancers, they're missing out on sporting events, they're missing out on everything. What can we do to motivate them to not fail, to interact in the school? What could we do something, for example, like local businesses do a dinner for them and their friends, social distance, obviously, but some kind of program to really try to have these kids excited to go to school. Why? Because if it's a pass fail, there's no, what's the high school going to look like next year if 200 kids are failing? What's the first semester going to look like? What's the COVID's one thing, but what are we doing for the children and the teachers? Well, I mean, could we do like the STARS program, for example, but amplified? What, as a thank you, as a motivational, as a great job for the teacher side, and on the kids side, what can the kids go out and have a little bit of fun? Because I know dances are not on the table, but maybe could we sponsor in the spring a drive-through for the movie theaters. I don't know, something are we planning anything, or could we have something planned to try to motivate these poor children?
Of course. Of course we could.
There are a number of programs actually that, I mean, a number of businesses have, I mean, Pizza Barn is always
Mhm.
the one that I always think of is that kids, is it reading or is it?
I'm sorry. Before Christmas, there were some community folks that stepped up and brought us lunch, and it was just a very nice gesture. It was taken very well by everyone. So, and Robert's restaurant was a part of that.
But Pizza Barns is like student achievement, right? There are some businesses that give it for students that have certain grades, they get gift certificates for.
Different, like,
I say, I know we have several businesses that do that, and
Is there like an organized, so really something that it's not just sporadic, it's really like a goal setting item, just to try, like say, to entice them to just do better, because the pass fail isn't very conducive to that.
Yeah, the individual schools are very active in coming up with activities. I mean, these are incredibly active schools
Mhm.
in coming up with
Oh, no,
those kinds
yeah,
of
and it's-
activities. And so, that's something that is continually happening, and something that we continue to work on. But yes, I mean, there's always the participation of the community, and our businesses are always welcome. And, we can, the sky's the limit. is
Because
what we
I know businesses probably would follow suit, but do we want to have, for example, some of the student bodies organize groups? Because that's what kids are thriving for. It's just a goal to do something. So maybe high school, their bodies just go out and get different packages, and we organize it with different committees to have something very specific set forward. I mean, I'm just worried about the failure rate next year. That's one of my concerns.
any recommendation on how we would move forward with that?
It'd be great to actually roll that all into, I know Jim had mentioned before, doing some goal setting and, vision for the district is to
Mhm.
incorporate some of those incentive programs. In fact, when you were mentioning that, I was thinking back to my college days when our fraternities would compete against each other for subs, getting a certain number of feet in a certain time period. And that'd be kind of neat to see students bring in their grades or something, show
Exactly, yeah.
that they're at a certain GPA and, get a 6-inch sub or something like that.
That's something we can work with like the PTAs or, because that's how all that started, was the PTAs aren't doing fundraising this year. So the
Right.
funds were low, and a bunch of realtors came together and said, hey, would you guys, contribute? More like, of course, So that's what started the whole conversation, is PTAs, trying to reach out to get funds because they're not fundraising this year.
Because there's one thing this pandemic did show us, is that our community is amazing. I'm pretty sure that if we had a group approach the business community, that they would just follow suit. I'm certain of that. So if you're using the PTAs or having some of the student bodies do it, that'd be amazing, I think.
I think all of us on the board can really think about this and come up with some very creative ideas, and we can see if we can get those all implemented and moving forward.
Mhm.
So, great ideas.
I always think anyone who wants to contribute to the school district, we welcome that contribution. It's always positive for students to have things to look forward to, opportunities, incentives. So I think that's a good idea
Yeah, because it just
work
makes me
forward.
think of
Mhm.
this year, sadly enough, every year for the last 4 or 5 years, we usually donate for the Valentine dance at Northside, and this year, obviously, they're not going to have it. So it just, there's all those stepping stones for the kids that they're missing out, sadly enough.
Yeah.
And same thing if we could do it with the teachers as well. Because there's been some very creative teachers, and they're trying hard, and they have, their hands are tied and they're trying. And it's not easy. It's not easy to teach on the screen while you have 10 kids standing by there as well. So if we have both incentives, and just for a thank you, like you're saying, bring, if it's a platter of sandwiches or dessert. That was just my 2 thoughts.
I always think food's good, so I think that's a good plan. All right, any other items from board members?
Had some great visits at Adobe with Luke today, and went to Mountain View as well. Didn't go get to walk around, do a whole tour of Mountain View, but because they're getting ready to release. But teachers are amazing out there. Nurses, I mean, they're working their butts off. Appreciate them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, anything else? All right, we'll move on to approval of the accounts payable.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I had some questions. If Mac's on, I think he'd be the one, probably. I just noticed there were, every child has a Chromebook, is that correct?
Correct.
So I'm just wondering, we have a CTL, it says CTL Chromebooks for 200,000, and then later on it in the later January one, it talks about Insight Direct for another 100,000 for Chromebooks. Why are you?
The Inside Direct one was the donation from NGM. And the other one was from CARES funding, which we're using both of those to replace our aging Chromebooks that we have out there. Because we have some that will not take any more updates anymore.
Okay. Are we missing any Chromebooks?
I won't know that until after we do inventory this summer. After we bring everybody back in.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that.
And as we ordered those Chromebooks in the summer, and they were so back ordered that we were just finally invoiced for them and able to pay for them.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, thank you. And I abstain on the accounts payable.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion or questions? All right, or disclosures. I will be disclosing that I have a family member whose employer is listed on the accounts payable, so I will also be abstaining. All right, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair and Mrs. Wines both abstain, but that motion carries. Item 7.1 is a final opportunity for comments from the public. Please, Mrs. Eisler.
I would just like to thank you for approving the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act. I've had lots of conversations with folks over the last week and a half, panicked about their sick leave because they were currently at home. And I want to compliment Dr. Robinson. It was directed to me that I should speak with Dr. Robinson about what we could do since that was not extended via the federal government. And she brought it to me when I called her about something else. So I want to thank you for bringing it to the board and for you approving that. That will set a lot of people at ease that are currently going through symptoms or exclusions at this time. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, we'll move to item 8.1, adjournment of the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? We don't need a second, but all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and we are adjourned. Thank you for joining us for our first meeting, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
We've got photos.
Oh, yes, board, please stay.